His father gave him 4 months to shut it down. Then she made him stay. Frost Manufacturing has 4 months to turn profitable or shut down forever. The ultimatum came from corporate 3 days ago. Now Detroit's last standing automotive parts plant hums with the percussion of survival. Sparks cascading from welding stations, hydraulic presses slamming with rhythmic violence, the air thick with metal and desperation. Paige Morrison, 28, moves through the chaos like a general through trenches. Safety vest over coveralls, clipboard gripped tight, she stops at Station 12 where Ruby Chen, 52, works the press line. Ruby's hands shake slightly, a tremor she tries to hide. "You okay?" Paige's voice cuts through the noise. Ruby nods, but Paige sees the pill bottle on the shelf. Half empty. The label says 30 days. It's been 2 weeks. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just fine." Paige doesn't push. She marks her clipboard and moves on. There are 43 stations on this floor, and every one of them has a story like Ruby's. The weight of knowing without being able to fix it is a kind of violence Paige has learned to carry. In the distance, through the reinforced glass of the observation deck, she catches movement. Suits, multiple. Her jaw tightens. The executive conference room sits above the factory floor like a throne room above a dungeon. Charles Frost, 64, built this empire with steel and silence. His hair is silver, his suit darker. He doesn't smile when his son enters. Kieran Frost, 30, wears his Harvard MBA like armor, but it doesn't protect him here. Nothing does. The Detroit facility is a liability. Charles doesn't look up from the quarterly report. "I'm giving you 4 months to turn it profitable or shut it down." "Dad, not a negotiation, Kieran. Consider it your final exam." Charles slides a second folder across the table. "These are the efficiency targets. Meet them or explain to the board why you couldn't." Kieran opens the folder. The numbers are brutal. 30% cost reduction, 20% output increase, 0 mention of the 417 people who work the floor. This isn't sustainable. Neither is sentimentality. Charles stands, meeting over. "Detroit's on you now. Don't embarrass me." Kieran stays seated after his father leaves, staring at numbers that demand the impossible. He flips through the folder, production reports, contract proposals, pending bids. One catches his eye. Chrysler Parts Supplier RFP, submitted 2 months ago. Status pending. Long shot, but if it came through. He closes the folder. Outside the window, the factory floor pulses with life. He wonders how you kill something without calling it murder. The 6 a.m. shift change is controlled chaos. Workers flow through the security checkpoint, lunch pails and thermoses in hand. The time clock's metallic thunk, thunk, thunk marks each arrival. Paige stands near the main entrance, watching. She sees Marcus Williams, 45, limping from his truck. 6 months ago, a falling crate crushed 2 toes. He was back in 3 days, couldn't afford the recovery time. Now he walks on the outside of his foot, compensating. That compensation will destroy his knee within a year. She's seen it before. "Marcus." "I'm good, Paige." He doesn't stop walking. She lets him go. You pick your battles, and morning shift is survival mode. Inside, the heat builds immediately. The ventilation system is original to the building, 1982. 3 of 7 fans work. Summer in Detroit turns the floor into a kiln. Winter, the loading docks become wind tunnels. Either way, people pay with their bodies. Foreman Jack Torres, 58, barks assignments. "Station 7 needs 2 on the line. We're behind on the transmission housing order. Station 14, hydraulic leak. Watch your feet. Maintenance says tomorrow." "Sure." Tomorrow. Paige approaches him. Jack, we need to talk about the overtime. No overtime. He doesn't look at her. New directive from corporate. Came in this morning. Jack, we can't hit quota without... Then we don't hit quota. His eyes are flat. You want to argue about it? There's a new executive arriving today. Take it up with him. The floor erupts in noise as the first shift hits full speed. Metal screams against metal. The smell of cutting fluid and hot steel fills the air. Paige watches workers move through choreographed danger. Every motion practiced, every step calculated to avoid the 100 ways this place can break a human body. Ruby takes her position at Station 12. Her hands still shake. She curls her fingers twice, stretching, trying to warm the joints. The tremor doesn't stop. Paige makes a note on her clipboard. Another problem without a solution. The observation deck windows catch sunlight. Someone's up there. Watching. Kieran's first day on the floor is designed to intimidate. Jack Torres doesn't shake his hand. Mr. Frost, welcome to the production floor. No warmth in it. Hard hat required, safety glasses, steel toes. You got steel toes? I can observe from company policy, your father's company policy. Jack's smile is sharp. You want to see the floor, you dress for the floor. 10 minutes later, Kieran stands in borrowed boots that don't quite fit, a hard hat that sits too low, safety glasses that fog immediately in the heat. He looks ridiculous. Jack knows it. The workers know it. This is the first lesson. You don't belong here. The second lesson comes from Paige. She intercepts him at Station 7, where a transmission housing is being fitted with bearings. The process requires precision, speed, and hands that have done it 10,000 times. The worker doesn't look up. Paige Morrison, shop steward. She doesn't offer her hand either. You're Charles Frost's son? Kieran, I'm here to assess efficiency metrics and identify cost reduction opportunities. She's read the memo. Let me save you time. The inefficiency is that we're understaffed, underpaid, and working with equipment that should have been replaced a decade ago. The cost reduction opportunity is investing in your workers instead of treating them like disposable parts. Kieran meets her eyes. They're dark brown, sharp with intelligence and barely contained fury. She's 5'6" of compressed opposition, and he realizes instantly that she's the real power on this floor. I'd like to understand the operation before making any changes. Would you? Not a question. She gestures to the floor. Then understand this. Every person here works hurt. Station 4, Miguel has a herniated disc. Station 9, Janet's on her 3rd cortisone shot for her shoulder. Station 12, Ruby's rationing her arthritis medication because insurance denied the new prescription. I'll look into... No, you won't. Paige's voice drops, but it cuts deeper. You'll do what every executive does. You'll find the line items that say labor costs and benefits expense, and you'll cut them. Because we're numbers to you. We're not numbers. We're people who build the parts that go into the cars that keep this country moving. Remember that when you're writing your report. She walks away before he can respond. Kieran stands in the noise and heat, expensive MBA suddenly worth nothing, watching Paige move through the floor like she owns it. Maybe she does. 2 weeks into Kieran's tenure, the institutional machinery begins to move against the workers. Paige is summoned to HR. The office is quiet, climate-controlled, removed from the floor's heat and noise. 50, HR director has the smile of someone who delivers bad news for a living. Paige, we need to discuss some policy violations. What violations? Linda opens a file. You've been observed conducting union business on company time. Specifically, you've used company email to distribute meeting notices, and you've held discussions with workers during shift hours. I'm the shop steward. That's my job. Your job is the production floor. Linda's smile doesn't waver. Union business should be conducted during breaks or off company property. We've had complaints. From who? That's confidential. Paige leans back. So someone, probably management, decides they don't like me talking to workers, and now I'm violating policy I've been following for 3 years? The policy has always existed. We're simply enforcing it more consistently. Linda slides a document across the desk. This is a formal warning. Future violations may result in suspension or termination. Paige reads the warning. The language is careful, legal, designed to build a paper trail. This isn't about policy. This is about silencing her. Does Kieran Frost know you're doing this? Mr. Frost is focused on operational efficiency. HR matters are my domain. Linda's smile sharpens. Unless you'd like to file a grievance. Though, I should warn you, grievances require extensive documentation, and the process typically takes 3 to 4 months, longer if there are complications. The threat is clear. Fight this, and they'll bury you in procedures. Paige signs the warning. She doesn't have a choice. But she makes a note. Linda Harris just declared war. Wars require strategy. Outside the HR office, she finds Marcus waiting by the vending machines. He hands her a coffee without being asked. How bad? They're building a case. Paige takes the coffee, which means they're scared we might actually win something. Marcus's laugh is bitter. Scared of what? We got nothing. Not yet. Paige thinks of Kieran Frost, watching from the observation deck, making his notes. But fear means vulnerability, and vulnerable means possible. She doesn't know if she believes it, but she needs Marcus to believe it, so she says it with conviction. Leadership is sometimes just convincing people hope isn't stupid. Kieran's 4th week, he breaks pattern. Instead of watching from the observation deck, he shows up at 5:45 a.m. and works Station 9 for 4 hours. He's terrible at it. The transmission housing assembly requires coordination between 3 workers, 1 feeding parts, 1 aligning, 1 fastening. Kieran is assigned to feeding. The parts weigh 8 pounds each. After 20 minutes, his shoulders burn. After an hour, his hands cramp. By hour 3, he's dropping parts. Janet, the woman Paige mentioned with the shoulder injury, covers for him. She doesn't say anything, just smoothly compensates when he fumbles, keeping the line moving. Kieran tries to thank her during the 10-minute break. She shrugs. You'll get it, or you won't. Either way, Quota doesn't care. Paige watches from Station 12, helping Ruby with a particularly difficult alignment. She doesn't comment on Kieran's presence, but he catches her looking. Once. Their eyes meet across the floor. She doesn't smile, doesn't acknowledge him, just turns back to Ruby. He realizes he wanted her to acknowledge it. The wanting irritates him. At lunch, Kieran sits alone in the break room. The workers don't ignore him. That would be acknowledgement. They simply exist around him, talking about shift schedules and weekend plans and whose turn it is to bring donuts. He's a stranger in his own family's building. Paige enters, sees him, considers leaving. Doesn't. She buys a sandwich from the vending machine, turkey and cheese, probably stale, and sits 3 tables away. Close enough to be in the same room, far enough to make a point. Kieran stands, carries his lunch to her table. Can I sit? It's a free country. She doesn't look up. He sits. They eat in silence. Around them, the break room hums with tired conversation. Someone laughs at a joke Kieran doesn't hear. The coffee machine gurgles. "You covered for me on the line," Kieran says finally. "Janet covered for you. You told her to." Paige looks at him now. "I told her you were slow and we needed to make quota. She made the choice. Don't confuse management with leadership." "What's the difference?" "Leaders protect their people. Managers protect the numbers." She takes a bite of sandwich, chews, swallows. "You're here to protect the numbers. I'm here to keep the plant open. By cutting costs, which means cutting people." Paige stands, lunch half finished. "When you figure out how to do one without the other, let me know. Until then, stay out of the way." She leaves. Kieran sits with the remains of his lunch, surrounded by workers who won't speak to him, watched by a woman who sees through every justification he's prepared. He goes back to the floor for the afternoon shift, works until 6 p.m., drops fewer parts. Progress, maybe, or just stubbornness. The Frost family estate in Bloomfield Hills is 42 rooms of calculated grandeur. Charles sits in his study, surrounded by photographs that document empire, factories, ribbon cuttings, handshakes with governors. There are no family photos. He pours whiskey, 30-year Macallan, and opens the file he doesn't keep at the office, the one marked 1987. Inside, newspaper clippings, court documents, a photo of a younger Charles standing outside a shuttered factory, workers holding signs. "Frost betrayed us. Blood money. Where's our pension?" The Lansing facility, his first major plant. He'd inherited it from his father, and within 3 years, he'd run it into the ground. Not through incompetence, through ambition. He'd leveraged the plant's assets for an acquisition that failed. When the money ran out, he had 2 choices: declare bankruptcy and lose everything, or strip the pension fund and save the company. He chose the company. 460 workers lost their retirements. Charles Frost rebuilt his empire on their backs. The lawsuits took years. He won most of them. The ones he didn't win, he settled with NDAs and sealed records. The press called it the Lansing the Trail. Business schools call it a case study in strategic restructuring. Charles calls it Tuesday. But he dreams about it. The faces of workers who'd trusted him. The woman who'd asked, voice breaking, how she was supposed to survive on Social Security alone. The man who'd worked for Charles's father for 34 years, who said, "I thought you were different." Charles wasn't different. He was smarter. He learned the lesson: never let workers believe you care. Care is vulnerability. Vulnerability is weakness. Weakness is death. He closes the file, finishes his whiskey. Tomorrow, he'll call Kieran and check the Detroit numbers. If his son is showing any softness, any hesitation, Charles will remove him. Better to be cruel than to be ruined. The photo of the shuttered Lansing factory stares back at him. Charles doesn't look away. He never looks away. That's how you survive. 6 weeks in, Kieran has pushed through 3 small changes. New safety mats at high-traffic stations, cost $4,200. Upgraded first aid kits with better pain medication, cost $890. Approved overtime for critical deadline orders, cost variable, controlled. It's not revolution, it's barely noticeable. But Paige notices. She finds him on the floor during afternoon shift, watching Station 14, where the hydraulic leak, promised to be fixed tomorrow for 6 weeks, still drips into a catch pan. The leak wastes hydraulic fluid, creates a slip hazard, and slows production. Maintenance keeps pushing it down the priority list. You going to fix that? Paige asks. Maintenance says it requires a full system shutdown, 4 hours minimum. We'd miss quota. So we keep losing fluid and someone eventually slips and breaks their neck. But hey, quota. Kieran looks at her. If I shut down the line for 4 hours, corporate will notice. They'll ask why. I'll have to justify it in the weekly report. God forbid you have to justify worker safety. I'm trying to build credibility. His frustration breaks through. Every dollar I spend, every hour of downtime, my father tallies it against me. If I lose his trust, I lose my ability to make any changes at all. Paige considers this. It's the first time he's been honest about the politics he's navigating. So, you're rationing how much you care. I'm being strategic about what I can win. Tell that to whoever slips in hydraulic fluid. But her tone is different. Less accusation, more challenge. You want credibility? Stop asking permission. Fix the leak. When corporate asks, tell them it was a safety violation and you're not negotiating about safety. Make them fire you over it. You want me to get fired? I want you to decide what you're willing to lose. Paige starts to walk away, then stops. The safety mats were good. Ruby says her knees hurt less. She didn't think anyone noticed her knees. It's the first compliment she's given him. Kieran doesn't know what to do with it. I noticed. Yeah. Paige meets his eyes. I'm starting to realize that. She leaves. Kieran stands watching the hydraulic drip, measuring the cost of action against the cost of waiting. At 4:15 p.m., he calls maintenance and orders an immediate shutdown. 4 hours to fix it properly. When Jack Torres argues about quota, Kieran pulls rank for the first time. We're fixing it today. Adjust the schedule. Jack stares at him, surprised, then nods. Yes, sir. The workers notice. Word spreads through the floor. New boss shut down the line for repairs. New boss didn't ask permission. The change is atmospheric, barely measurable. But Paige feels it. Maybe he's learning. The Health and Safety Committee meeting is Kieran's introduction to institutional warfare. Paige chairs it. 6 workers, 1 HR rep, 1 management observer. The agenda is ambitious. Ventilation upgrades, ergonomic assessments, mandatory break compliance. Linda from HR sits with her arms crossed, a living barrier. These requests require capital expenditure approval, Linda says before anyone speaks. The budget cycle closed in January. Any non-critical improvements will need to wait until next fiscal year. The ventilation system is a health hazard, Paige counters. Heat exhaustion sent 2 workers to the ER last summer, and we installed portable fans in response. 4 fans for a 60,000 square foot floor within OSHA guidelines. Paige has documentation. She always has documentation. She slides incident reports across the table, heat-related illnesses, respiratory complaints, fatigue-linked accidents. Linda doesn't look at them. OSHA hasn't cited us. Until they do, ventilation is adequate. Kieran, observing, sees the game clearly. Linda's job isn't to solve problems. It's to delay solutions until they become someone else's crisis. What if we phased the ventilation upgrades? He speaks before thinking through the politics. Start with the welding stations, highest heat concentration, and expand as budget allows. Linda's smile is arctic. Mr. Frost, I appreciate your engagement, but capital projects require executive approval, unless you're prepared to personally authorize the expenditure. The trap is obvious. Authorize it and undermine Linda's authority, creating an HR enemy. Don't authorize it and prove he's just another management observer. Useless. Paige watches him. This is the test. Draft a proposal, Kieran tells Paige. Priority-based phasing, cost breakdown, expected safety improvements. I'll present it to my father. Linda's smile freezes. She's been outmaneuvered. The budget is Charles Frost's decision, not yours. Kieran's voice is level. If he denies it, we wait for next fiscal. But we ask. The meeting ends shortly after. Workers file out, cautiously optimistic. Linda leaves without speaking, already planning her countermove. Kieran knows he's made an enemy. It feels surprisingly good. Paige lingers as the room empties. You know she's going to bury that proposal. Probably. And your father will reject it even if it reaches him. Almost certainly. So why bother? Kieran meets her eyes. Because you asked. And because you're right. Paige doesn't thank him, but she nods. It's acknowledgement. From her, that's progress. The crisis arrives on a Tuesday morning in the form of Ruby's daughter. Amy Chen, 26, bursts through the security checkpoint, past Jack Torres's protests, straight to the floor. She finds Paige at Station 8. They denied her appeal. The insurance, they denied her medication appeal. Paige's stomach drops. When? Letter came yesterday. Mom didn't tell me until this morning. Amy's voice shakes. She can't afford it without insurance. The rheumatoid arthritis medication is $3,400 a month. She's been cutting pills in half to make them last. Paige looks across the floor. Ruby is at her station, hands moving through practiced motions, shaking with every movement. Cutting pills in half doesn't just reduce dosage, it destroys timed release mechanisms, causes uneven blood levels, increases side effects. Where is she now? Working. Amy's laugh is broken. Where else? She misses a shift, she loses the job. Loses the job, loses the insurance entirely. Even useless insurance is better than no insurance. Paige has seen it 100 times. Workers staying in jobs that destroy their bodies because leaving means losing everything. I'll talk to her. And say what? HR already told her the decision is final. Her doctor's appeal was denied. The medication isn't medically necessary. That's what they said. Her hands shake so bad she can barely hold a cup, but it's not medically necessary. Paige has no answer. She watches Ruby work, each movement careful, compensating for pain. The woman is 52 years old and falling apart. Amy leaves, helpless and furious. Paige stands on the factory floor, surrounded by noise and heat, facing a problem that has no solution within the system. That afternoon, Ruby collapses. Not dramatically, she doesn't fall. She simply stops moving, hands locked around a transmission housing, unable to release her grip. The tremor has become a seizure-like cramping. Janet hits the line stop. The floor goes silent. Kieran, watching from the observation deck, sees the crowd gather. He's down the stairs before thinking, pushing through workers. Ruby sits on the floor, breathing hard, hands still curled into painful claws. Paige kneels beside her, working Ruby's fingers open with gentle, practiced movements. I'm okay, Ruby whispers. I'm okay, I can work. You're done for today. Paige's voice is firm but not unkind. Jack, call medical. Kieran. She looks up, sees him. Your company insurance just denied her medication appeal. You want to help? Fix that. It's not a request. Kieran looks at Ruby's hands, twisted and shaking, looks at Paige's face, daring him to walk away, looks at the circle of workers watching to see what the boss does when the system breaks one of their own. What medication? Biologic DMARD for rheumatoid arthritis, $3,400 a month. Insurance says it's not medically necessary, and she should try cheaper alternatives first. What alternatives? She's tried them. For 8 years, they don't work. Kieran pulls out his phone, dials a number, waits. Linda Harris, please. It's Kieran Frost. Pause. Linda, I need you to override an insurance denial. Ruby Chen, rheumatoid arthritis medication. Expedited. Longer pause. I don't care about the policy. I'm asking you to make an exception. Pause. His jaw tightens. Then I'm instructing you, as management, override the denial or I'll escalate to my father. He hangs up, looks at Paige. It's done. Just like that? Just like that. But his expression says he'll pay for this later. Get her to medical. Make sure she's okay. 2 workers help Ruby to her feet. She looks at Kieran, eyes wet. Thank you, Mr. Frost. He nods, uncomfortable with gratitude. As they lead Ruby away, Paige stays. That's going to cost you. I know. Your father will find out. I know. Linda's going to make your life hell. I know. Kieran meets her eyes. It was still the right thing to do. Paige studies him. The Harvard MBA, the tailored suit, the man who showed up 8 weeks ago talking about efficiency metrics. He's different now. Or maybe he's starting to show who he was underneath. Yeah, she says quietly. It was. It's the first time she's agreed with him without qualification. Kieran doesn't push it. They stand in the suspended silence of the stopped production line, workers watching, something unspoken shifting between them. Then the line starts again. Metal screams. Work continues. But the atmosphere has changed. Ruby's crisis becomes a rallying point. Workers who'd been skeptical of Kieran start watching him differently. Not with trust. Trust is earned slowly, but with possibility. Paige files it away. He chose people over policy. Once. Maybe he'll do it again. The quarterly board meeting is 3 days away. Kieran prepares his report in the plant office, surrounded by spreadsheets that tell competing stories. Story 1. Costs down 12%. Efficiency up 8%. Safety incidents down 15%. Progress without bloodshed. Story 2. Profit margins insufficient. Labor costs still too high. Timeline behind schedule. Failure by his father's metrics. Charles will see Story 2. The board will see Story 2. Kieran's 4-month deadline is now 3 months past, and he's nowhere near his father's targets. His phone buzzes. Email from procurement. Chrysler RFP, final review stage. Decision expected within 30 days. He stares at it. The long shot is still alive. But 30 days might be too late. At 11 p.m. his phone rings. Charles. The Detroit numbers are underwhelming. We're making progress. Progress isn't profit. The board wants results. I need more time. Time is money. You've spent both. Charles's voice is cold. The board meeting is Friday. I suggest your presentation is compelling, because if it's not, I'm shutting Detroit down, and you're done. The line goes dead. Kieran sits in the empty office, looking at the floor through the observation window. 40 workers on night shift, moving through practiced choreography. Each one has a Ruby story. Each one is a line item in his father's ledger. He thinks about Paige's question. What are you willing to lose? Everything, maybe. But not them. Thursday, 9 p.m. Kieran is alone in the observation office when his phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You should see this. A link follows. He clicks. It's a local news site. Frost airs costly compassion. Executive overrides insurance. Costs company thousands. The story is detailed, sourced, devastating. It outlines Ruby's medication override, frames it as nepotistic overreach, includes quotes from anonymous company sources about Kieran's emotional decision-making and inability to maintain professional boundaries. Linda Harris's fingerprints are all over it. The article goes further. It lists every expenditure Kieran has approved: safety mats, first aid upgrades, the hydraulic repair, overtime authorizations. Totaled up and presented without context, it looks like reckless spending. The final paragraph speculates about whether the younger Frost has the business acumen to manage a struggling facility, or if family sentiment is clouding judgment. His phone rings immediately. Charles. Explain. It's taken out of context. It's in the Detroit Free Press. A business reporter just called me for comment on whether you're fit to run the facility. Charles's voice could freeze steel. Tomorrow, you will present to the board. You will explain why you've spent company money overriding insurance policies, shutting down production lines, and generally running my plant like a charity. And your explanation better be extraordinary. Dad, Ruby Chen has worked for us for 17 years. I don't care if she's worked for us for 50 years. You don't override insurance because a worker has a sad story. You follow policy. You maintain boundaries. You act like an executive, not a social worker. Maybe we need more executives who act like social workers. The silence is dangerous. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., conference room. Be ready to defend every decision you've made, because the board is going to eat you alive, and I'm going to let them. Charles hangs up. Kieran sits in the dark office looking at the article on his phone. He should be furious, humiliated, terrified for his career. Instead, he thinks, Linda leaked this to destroy me, which means she's scared, which means we're close to something. At 9:30 p.m., Paige arrives. She doesn't knock, just walks into the observation office with 2 cups of vending machine coffee and the day's production reports. Saw the article. Everyone's seen the article. You okay? Kieran looks at her, surprised. Are you asking if I'm okay? Don't read into it. I need you functional for tomorrow. But her voice is softer than usual. She sets 1 coffee in front of him. Drink. You look like hell. He drinks. It's terrible coffee. It helps. They're going to destroy me tomorrow. Probably. Paige sits across from him. Board meetings are blood sport for people like your father, and you just gave them ammunition. So what do I do? She looks up. You tell the truth. The numbers, the progress, the real story. And when they ask about Ruby, you tell them you made a choice between policy and people, and you chose people. That'll get me fired. Maybe, she shrugs. Or maybe some of them will remember why they got into business in the first place. Paige slides the production reports across the desk. These numbers are good, Kieran. Safety incidents down 15%, efficiency up 8%, worker satisfaction highest in 3 years. You've done real things. Don't let them make you ashamed of that. It's the first time she's used his first name. He notices. She notices him noticing. Neither acknowledges it. If they shut us down, then we fight. But we don't surrender before the battle starts. She stands to leave. At the door, she pauses. For what it's worth, Ruby's daughter called me today. Ruby's hands are already improving on the new medication. She cried, telling me. Said it's the first time in 2 years she's been able to hold her grandson without pain. Paige meets his eyes. So yeah, it cost money. And yeah, Linda's trying to destroy you for it. But you gave a woman her hands back. That's worth defending. She leaves. Kieran sits with her words, the terrible coffee, and the presentation he needs to build. At midnight, he starts writing. Not the presentation his father wants. The one Paige challenged him to give. The truth. Friday morning. The Frost Industries boardroom is glass and steel designed to intimidate. 12 board members, venture capitalists, industry veterans, family friends sit in judgment. Charles presides at the head of the table, expression unreadable. Kieran stands. His presentation begins with numbers. Production up, costs controlled, safety improved. Standard executive summary. Then he changes course. These metrics don't tell the complete story. Detroit isn't just a facility. It's 417 people whose labor built this company's reputation. Over the past 3 months, I've worked to balance operational efficiency with human sustainability. One board member, Richard Matthews, a veteran auto industry executive, leans forward. Explain the insurance override. That's outside standard protocol. Ruby Chen has rheumatoid arthritis. For 8 years, she tried every medication the insurance company recommended. None worked. Her doctor prescribed a biologic that did work. Insurance denied it as not medically necessary. I overrode that denial because watching a 17-year employee lose hand function while doing a job that requires hand function is both cruel and stupid business. Stupid business? Charles's voice is sharp. That override cost us $40,000 annually. It saved us the cost of losing an experienced worker, training a replacement, and the productivity loss during transition. Plus, the workers noticed. Morale improved, safety incidents dropped. When people believe management values them, they work better. The room is silent. Richard Matthews nods slowly. 2 other board members exchange glances. Charles's expression hasn't changed, but Kieran sees the calculation in his eyes. Margaret Hayes, the board's CFO, speaks. The numbers suggest improvement, but you're behind the profitability targets because those targets required either mass layoffs or slashing wages to minimum. Both would have destroyed morale, increased turnover, and likely triggered a strike. I chose incremental improvement that's sustainable. Sustainable doesn't mean profitable. Not yet. But we're building foundation for long-term growth. And there it is, the fundamental conflict. Kieran could retreat now, apologize, promise faster results, save his career. He thinks of Paige, of Ruby's hands, of Marcus limping, of 40 workers on night shift who trusted him enough to keep showing up. Then maybe we're measuring the wrong things. The room erupts. 3 board members argue for immediate closure. 2 defend Kieran's approach. Richard Matthews asks pointed questions about the efficiency gains. Charles says nothing, watching his son defend a position that violates every lesson he's taught. Margaret Hayes calls for a vote. Continue operations with Kieran in charge, or shut down Detroit and liquidate assets. The vote is 7-5 to continue. Barely. 3 months, Charles says. Prove this approach works, or we revisit closure. It's not victory. It's a stay of execution. But it's enough. Kieran returns to Detroit that afternoon. Word has spread through the plant. Board meeting, close vote, 3-month extension. Workers watch him arrive, trying to gauge the verdict from his expression. Paige intercepts him at the entrance. Well, 3 months. We need to show significant profit improvement or they shut us down. Her face doesn't change, but he sees the tension in her shoulders ease fractionally. So we buy ourselves time. We bought ourselves time. He meets her eyes. Your speech about defending real work helped. I used it. My speech? You've been giving it to me for 3 months. I finally listened. He's exhausted, running on adrenaline and vending machine coffee. They hated it. But Richard Matthews asked questions about worker retention and safety metrics. We didn't win, but we didn't lose. Paige absorbs this. You should tell them, the workers. They've been waiting. They walk onto the floor together. It's shift change, maximum bodies, maximum visibility. Jack Torres sees them coming, kills the music someone's been playing. The floor doesn't go silent. Machinery doesn't allow silence, but conversation stops. Kieran speaks without notes, without polish. The board voted to keep us open. 3 months to prove we can be profitable without destroying lives. I don't know if we can do it, but I know we're going to try. And I know I can't do it alone. No applause. This isn't a movie. But Marcus nods. Janet says, all right then. Ruby, hands steady on her new medication, smiles. Paige stands beside Kieran, silent solidarity. The workers return to their stations. Work continues. Afterward, in the observation office, Paige reviews the new timeline. 3 months. We need to cut costs without cutting people, or increase output without increasing hours. Both. She makes notes. I have some ideas. Floor-level efficiency improvements. Workers have been suggesting them for years, but management never listened. I'm listening now. She looks at him. Something in her expression has changed. Not softness. Paige doesn't do soft, but assessment. Like she's revising an earlier conclusion. You stood up to your father, in front of the board. I stood up for what's right. Same thing in this case. She stands. There's a community meeting tomorrow, workers, family members. You should come. Will I be welcome? Probably not, but you should come anyway. She heads for the door, pauses. Wear something normal. The suit makes you look like a target. It's not quite an invitation, but it's close. The community meeting is held in a church basement 3 blocks from the plant. Folding tables, metal chairs, donated coffee in a battered urn. 50 people, workers, spouses, a few kids doing homework in the corner. Kieran arrives in jeans and a plain shirt, still looks out of place but less aggressively corporate. Paige sees him, nods acknowledgement, continues setting up. The meeting begins without ceremony. Jack Torres presents production schedules. A worker from Station 6 discusses the upcoming contract negotiations. Someone's wife talks about organizing a food drive for families hit hardest by the summer slowdown. Then Paige stands. We've got 3 months to prove this plant can survive. Management's finally listening, but listening isn't enough. We need leverage. We don't have leverage, someone calls out. They can replace us. They can't replace our knowledge. Paige has papers, always papers. Every person in this room knows something management doesn't. How to run that machine 5% faster, where the process bottlenecks, what modifications would save time. She looks at Kieran. Everyone looks at Kieran. He stands. She's right. I don't know how this floor actually works. You do. If you're willing to share that knowledge, I'm willing to fight for it to be implemented. Marcus stands. My station wastes 6 minutes per unit because the parts bin is 14 feet away instead of 5. I've been saying this for 3 years. Move the bin, Kieran says immediately. Show me where tomorrow. Janet. Station 9's assembly jig is misaligned. We compensate manually, costs us time and accuracy. Realignment would take 2 hours and save us 30 seconds per unit. Schedule it. Ruby. The medication timer on Station 12 is broken. We estimate by count. An actual timer would reduce errors. How much? $40 timer. Probably save 5% error rate. Kieran's writing this down. Done. The room shifts. Suggestions flow faster. Small things, individually insignificant, collectively transformative. Paige orchestrates it, her clipboard filling with actionable items. But then she shifts gears. That's efficiency. Now we need protection. Paige faces the room. We're going to propose something to management. If we hit profitability targets through these worker-driven improvements, we want a written guarantee. No layoffs, no wage cuts, no benefit reductions for 2 years. Silence. This is dangerous territory. They'll never agree to that, someone says. They will if we make it the condition. Paige's voice is steel. We deliver the profits using our methods, our knowledge, our labor. In exchange, we get security. And if they refuse, then we know where we stand. But I don't think they'll refuse. She looks at Kieran. Will you? Every eye in the room swivels to him. This is the moment. Not the board meeting, not the health insurance override. This is Paige asking him to commit to the people against his father's philosophy. Kieran doesn't hesitate. Put it in writing. If the workers deliver profitability through these efficiency improvements, I'll guarantee 2 years of operational stability. No layoffs, no cuts. I'll take it to the board myself. The room erupts. Not in celebration, these are people too beaten down for celebration, but in cautious, fragile hope. Paige meets his eyes across the room. Something passes between them. Respect. Partnership. The beginning of trust. After the meeting, she walks him to his car. The Detroit night is cold, streetlights casting orange pools on cracked pavement. You know your father's going to fight that guarantee. I know. And the board might override you. They might. So why promise it? Kieran looks at the church, its basement windows glowing with light and activity. Because it's the right deal. They give their knowledge, we give them security. That's how partnerships work. This isn't a partnership. It's a job. It should be a partnership. He meets her eyes. You've been fighting that battle alone for how long? 3 years as steward? Longer than that as a worker? You shouldn't have to fight alone. Paige is quiet for a moment, then, You're not what I expected. Disappointed? Surprised. She smiles, small but genuine. Turns out some rich boys can learn. It's the closest she's come to a compliment. Kieran doesn't push it. Same time Monday? Start implementing the suggestions? 6 a.m. Bring steel toes. She starts to walk away, then turns back. Kieran, thank you for listening. She's gone before he can respond, disappearing into the Detroit night. Kieran stands by his car feeling something unfamiliar. Hope, maybe. Or just the terrifying realization that he's in too deep to turn back now. The next 8 weeks are controlled chaos. Kieran implements every suggestion from the community meeting. Parts bins move, jigs get realigned, timers are installed. Each change is small. Together, they're transformation. The workers notice. More importantly, they contribute. A machinist suggests a die modification that saves 30 seconds per part. Someone in shipping redesigns the pallet configuration, increasing truck capacity by 8%. The cafeteria worker mentions the coffee machine's timer is broken, wasting grounds. A $12 part saves $200 monthly. Paige coordinates it all, tracking improvements with the precision of a military campaign. She and Kieran develop a rhythm: morning meetings at 6 a.m., floor walks at 10, problem-solving sessions over lunch. They argue constantly about priorities, implementation speed, risk tolerance, but the arguments are productive. One afternoon, Paige corners him by the shipping dock with a printout. Station 7's error rate dropped 12% since we moved the parts bin. Marcus's suggestion: your implementation. She doesn't quite smile, but her eyes are less guarded. You're getting better at this. I have a good teacher. You have a demanding teacher. There's a difference. But she hands him a coffee. She's started bringing him coffee during afternoon rounds. Next problem: the Chrysler contract. Procurement says we're in the final 2 bidders. They want a site visit next week. Can we handle it? If we can show them the efficiency improvements, the safety record, the worker retention rate? Yes. She meets his eyes. This could change everything, Kieran. 2-year guaranteed contract, steady volume, real security. Don't get your hopes up yet. I'm not hopeful. I'm prepared. She taps the printout. We need to clean up Station 4's output quality and fix the lighting in the inspection area. The Chrysler people will notice everything. They spend the next hour walking the floor, identifying improvements. At one point, Paige stumbles on an uneven floor plate. Kieran catches her elbow, steadying her. For a moment, they're close enough that he can smell her shampoo. Something clean and simple. She steps back quickly. Thanks. Careful. Can't have our shop steward getting injured. Can't have our facility director looking like he cares too much. But her tone is teasing, not sharp. It's progress. Small, careful progress. Paige watches this evolution with cautious assessment. She's been disappointed before, but Kieran's consistency is hard to dismiss. One afternoon, she finds him in the observation office, staring at spreadsheets with the intensity of someone trying to force numbers to behave. Still not profitable? We're close. 6% margin. We need 8 to satisfy the board. 2%, that's nothing. That's everything. He shows her the projection. We can get there with 1 more efficiency gain or 1 more quarter of sustained output. But we're out of easy wins. Paige studies the numbers. She's learned to read financial statements over the past months. What if we pitched the guarantee now, before we hit the target? Why would they agree to that? Because we're close. Because the trend is undeniable. Because if they wait until we hit 8%, we have all the leverage. She leans against the desk. Right now, we can negotiate from good faith. Later, we negotiate from strength. Which do you think they'll hate less? It's smart, politically astute. I'll draft the proposal. We'll draft it. Paige pulls up a chair. You know the business language. I know what protections we actually need. Neither of us gets it right alone. They work until midnight. At some point, Kieran orders Chinese food. They eat straight from containers, arguing about severance language, laughing when they both reach for the last spring roll and end up splitting it. Paige catches him watching her and raises an eyebrow. What? Nothing, just you're different when you're working on something you believe in. How? Less guarded, more yourself. He sets down his chopsticks. I like it. The moment stretches. Paige doesn't retreat, but she doesn't lean in either. This is professional, she says quietly. Partnership, collaboration. Don't complicate it. What if I want to complicate it? Then you're confusing proximity with connection. She stands, gathering the food containers. We're working together toward the same goal. That doesn't make us the same, and it doesn't make this personal. Paige, I mean it, Kieran. I've seen this before. Good intentions, real effort, then something shifts. The board pressures you, your father pulls you back, and suddenly workers are disposable again. She's protecting herself. So let's keep this what it is, a working relationship, nothing more. She leaves. Kieran sits with the remains of dinner and the draft proposal. But the next morning, she's back at 6 a.m. with coffee and the final edits. All business, all focus. If the previous night affected her, she doesn't show it. He takes his cue from her. Professional. Partners. Even if it feels like less than it could be. Kieran presents the guarantee proposal to Charles over dinner at the Bloomfield Hills estate. It goes as badly as expected. You want to handcuff the company to a 2-year guarantee? Based on projections? Charles's laugh is sharp. The board will never approve this. The workers have delivered everything we asked. They deserve security. They deserve paychecks, which they get bi-weekly. Charles cuts his steak with surgical precision. Security isn't guaranteed in business. Treating people as disposable creates long-term instability. Sentimentality destroys companies. Charles sets down his knife. I know what you're doing. You think if you save these workers, you'll be different from me. Noble. But you're not saving them. You're delaying the inevitable. What if I prove it's not inevitable? Then you'll have accomplished something remarkable. Charles's tone suggests he considers this impossible. But more likely, you'll hit some crisis, and all your promises will evaporate. Kieran thinks of Paige, of Marcus limping, of Ruby crying. I'd rather be kind than profitable. You won't be able to afford kindness without profit. It might even be true, but Kieran refuses to accept it. I'm presenting the guarantee to the board, with or without your support. Charles studies his son. You're willing to destroy your career over this? I'm willing to build something different. For the first time, Charles looks almost impressed. The board meets in 2 weeks. Prepare your defense. You'll need it. The second board meeting is a trial. Kieran presents the guarantee proposal supported by 8 weeks of data. Productivity up 14%, safety incidents down 22%, worker retention at 97% despite industry average of 73%. We're not quite profitable yet, Kieran admits, but the trajectory is clear. These gains came from trusting workers as partners. The guarantee ensures we maintain that partnership. Margaret Hayes studies the numbers. The data supports your claim, but guaranteeing no layoffs for 2 years is operationally risky. More risky than losing institutional knowledge through turnover? Turnover is replaceable. Operational flexibility isn't. Richard Matthews interjects. What's the retention cost of experienced workers versus training replacements? Kieran has this prepared. Average training period is 6 months to reach full productivity. Cost per replacement, $8,400 in direct training, plus productivity loss. Our 97% retention rate has saved approximately $340,000 this year alone. The room considers this. Charles sits silent. A venture capitalist, Thomas Reed, speaks. This is admirable, Kieran. But the market rewards profitable, not admirable. If we lock ourselves into this guarantee and hit a downturn, we lose flexibility when we need it most. We gain loyalty when we need it most. Workers who feel secure work harder, suggest improvements, stay through difficulties. They're at an impasse. Margaret calls for a vote. The result? 6-6 tie. Charles, as chairman, holds the tiebreaker. The room waits. Kieran meets his father's eyes. Motion fails, Charles says. The guarantee dies. Kieran stands in the conference room afterward, watching board members file out. He expected this. It still feels like failure. Paige is going to be devastated. He drives back to Detroit that evening, arriving at the plant near shift change. The floor is busy, workers focused on end-of-day quotas. No one notices him watching from the observation deck. Except Paige. She climbs the stairs, doesn't knock, enters the observation office with the expression of someone who already knows. They rejected it. Tied 6-6. My father broke the tie. She nods, doesn't curse, doesn't cry, just absorbs another loss. I'm sorry. Kieran means it. I fought for it. The data was there. They always choose flexibility over security. Paige looks out at the floor. I knew this would happen. I knew it, and I still let myself hope. That's on me. It's on them. Doesn't change the outcome. She's tired. You tried. I appreciate that, but trying doesn't pay rent or protect jobs. So what do? We keep working. Hit the profitability target. Hope that's enough. She starts to leave. And we stop pretending this is something it's not. You're management, I'm labor, that's the reality. Paige, don't. She doesn't look at him. I need to tell the workers. They've been waiting for news. She leaves. Kieran watches through the window as she gathers people during shift change, delivers the news without ceremony. Faces fall. Later that night, alone in his apartment, Kieran calls his father. You could have supported me. I could have, but then you wouldn't learn. Learn what? That good intentions don't run companies. Hard choices do. Pause. I chose effective, built an empire. You chose liked, built what exactly? Kieran doesn't have an answer. 3 weeks left. Either you hit profitability and prove your methods work, or you don't, and we shut it down. The line goes dead. Kieran sits in darkness. He has 3 weeks to find out what he's actually built. The final 3 weeks are a sprint toward an impossible target, 8% profitability. They're at 6.2%. The gap feels insurmountable. Kieran works 18-hour days. Paige mobilizes the floor, squeezing productivity from exhausted workers who know this might be their last chance. The plant becomes a pressure cooker. Tempers fray. Small mistakes cascade. Jack Torres snaps at a worker for a 5-second delay. Someone files a grievance about break time. Paige intervenes, calling an emergency floor meeting during lunch. I know everyone's exhausted. I know it feels impossible, but we're close. She has the latest numbers. We need 1.8% more efficiency. That's 18 seconds per unit across 40 units per hour. 18 seconds. We can find that. What if we can't? Someone voices the fear everyone's thinking. Then we can't, and the plant closes, and we find other jobs. Paige's honesty is brutal, but I'd rather go down fighting than give up with 3 weeks left. Wouldn't you? It's not inspiring, it's just real. And somehow, that's what they need. The floor redoubles efforts. Workers who've been adversaries for years start collaborating. The second shift shares a process improvement with first shift. Someone jury-rigs a broken sensor with electrical tape and prayer, saving the 4-hour repair delay. Kieran watches it happen, humbled. He'd thought he was leading them. He realizes now they've been carrying him the entire time. With 1 week left, they hit 7.6% profitability. So close. Paige finds Kieran on the floor at 2 a.m., both of them too wired to sleep, staring at machines that need to run faster, better, smarter. We're not going to make it, are we? She says it without emotion. I don't know. Be honest. Honestly? We need a miracle. He looks at her. I'm sorry I couldn't deliver the guarantee. You did more than anyone else would have. Paige leans against a workstation. I was wrong about you. At the beginning, I thought you were just another entitled executive playing at caring. But you're not. You actually gave a damn. Past tense? Present tense. You give a damn. It's just not enough. She smiles, sad and small. They stand in the empty factory, surrounded by silent machines, facing probable failure, together. What will you do? Kieran asks. If we close. Find another job. There's always another factory, another fight. She looks at him. What will you do? I don't know. My father will consider this proof his methods are right. Will you believe him? Kieran thinks about Ruby's hands, Marcus's limp, the spring roll they shared, the way Paige fights for her people with every breath. No. I'll believe we had a chance and got unlucky. He meets her eyes. And I'll find another factory, another fight. If you'll have me. Paige doesn't answer, but she doesn't leave either. The moment breaks when Paige's phone rings. She answers, listens, her expression transforming from exhaustion to shock. That was procurement. The Chrysler contract we bid on 3 months ago? We got it. 2-year part supplier agreement, guaranteed minimum volume. She's reading the email. Kieran, it's worth $3.2 million annually. They stare at each other. That puts us over. Kieran's mind races. With that contract, we're at 11% profitability. Sustainable, long-term, undeniable. We did it. We did it. They both start laughing, exhausted, disbelieving laughter that's half hysteria. 3 months of impossible work, 3 weeks of desperate scrambling, saved by a contract they'd worked hard to earn. I need to call my father, Kieran says. I need to tell the workers. Paige heads for the door, then stops. Kieran, we're still going to fight for that guarantee, right? Now we have leverage. Now we have leverage, he confirms. She grins. It's the first unguarded smile he's seen from her. It transforms her face, makes her look younger, less exhausted. Beautiful. She catches him looking. The smile fades, replaced by caution. Don't. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. We saved the plant. That's the victory. Why can't it be both? Because you're still Charles Frost's son. Because I'm still a factory worker. She's serious now. We're not a fairy tale, Kieran. What if I don't want it to be a fairy tale? What if I just want it to be real? Doesn't matter what you want. Matters what's real. She softens slightly. You're a good man. Better than I expected. But good men don't change the world. They just make it slightly more bearable. She leaves before he can argue. Kieran stands alone in the factory, victory in hand, feeling like he's lost something more important. The final board meeting is validation. Kieran presents the Chrysler contract, the sustained efficiency improvements, the profitability numbers. Charles listens without expression. When the presentation ends, Margaret Hayes speaks first. This is impressive work, Kieran. You've exceeded targets and established sustainable growth. The board recommends continuing operations with you as facility director. Applause. Restrained. Professional. Kieran should feel triumphant. Instead, he feels hollow. There's one more item. He distributes the guarantee proposal, revised, updated, now backed by proven profitability. The workers delivered these results. They deserve security in return. I'm requesting board approval for a 2-year operational stability guarantee. The room shifts. Charles's expression hardens. We settled this, Thomas Reed says. We revisit it in light of results. Kieran doesn't back down. You wanted profitability. We delivered. Now I'm asking you to deliver on basic human decency. Human decency doesn't appear in financial statements. Neither does worker loyalty. Neither does institutional knowledge. Neither does the goodwill that made every one of these improvements possible. Kieran looks around the table. You can deny this. You have that power. But if you do, you can't be surprised when workers treat you the same way. Margaret considers. Richard, what's your assessment? Richard Matthews has been quiet throughout. Now he speaks. The retention data is compelling. Guaranteed stability could enhance our competitive position. I support the proposal. One by one, board members weigh in. The vote this time, 8-4 in favor. Charles is outnumbered. His face shows nothing, but Kieran knows his father well enough to read the anger underneath. Motion passes, Charles says. 2-year guarantee, contingent on maintaining current profitability levels. It's victory. Real, substantive victory. Kieran calls Paige from the parking lot. She answers on the first ring. They approved it. Full guarantee, 2 years, no layoffs or cuts. Silence. Then, you're serious. Completely serious. We won, Paige. We actually won. Her laugh is broken, relieved. I need to tell everyone. They're not going to believe it. Make them believe it. You earned this. We earned it. She pauses. Thank you, Kieran, for everything. Thank you for teaching me what leadership actually means. He can hear her smile through the phone. Get back here. We're celebrating. The celebration is modest. Pizza in the break room, cheap champagne someone bought at the grocery store. Workers crowd in, laughing and talking, the weight of months of anxiety finally lifting. Paige stands on a chair to address the crowd. Today, we won something real. Not just jobs, not just wages, but security, dignity. She finds Kieran in the crowd. And we have someone to thank for that. Someone who could have taken the easy path and didn't. The workers applaud. Kieran feels embarrassed, undeserving. But when Paige climbs down and the crowd disperses, she approaches him with something in her expression he hasn't seen before. Permission. You want to get out of here? She asks quietly. Where would we go? Somewhere that's not a factory or a boardroom. She smiles. Somewhere we can just be two people who worked really hard and earned a break. They end up at a diner 3 blocks away, booth by the window, coffee that's slightly better than vending machine quality. It's 11 p.m. The place is nearly empty. Paige orders pie. Kieran orders pie. They eat in comfortable silence. I meant what I said, Paige tells him, about you being different. I didn't think that was possible. You taught me it was. I didn't teach you, you learned. She sets down her fork. That's scarier, actually. Learning means you choose to know. So, what happens now? Now we work. We've got 2 years of security. We use it to build something sustainable. She hesitates. And we figure out what this is, between us. What do you want it to be? Paige looks at him for a long moment. I want it to be real. Not a power dynamic, not a fantasy. Real, complicated, honest. I can do real. Can you? Because real means I'm going to challenge you constantly. I'm going to call out every decision I think prioritizes profit over people. I don't know how to be with someone without being honest. I don't want you any other way. She studies him, measuring truth. Then she reaches across the table and takes his hand. Her palm is calloused from factory work. His is soft from desk jobs. The difference doesn't matter. Okay, she says. Let's try. 6 months later. The factory floor has transformed. New ventilation, updated equipment, safety metrics at industry-leading levels, profitability stable at 12%. Kieran walks the floor every morning, not as an executive inspecting his domain, as a partner. He knows every worker's name, their kids' names, their concerns. Paige still challenges him. In meetings, she argues about resource allocation, long-term sustainability. They don't always agree, but they always respect each other. Sometimes, late at night, when they're both still working, they find moments alone, talking about the plant, about strategy, about the future. Gradually, those conversations expanded to include their lives outside these walls. They're careful with each other. This thing between them is still new, still fragile, so they move slowly, building trust before building anything else. But tonight, after a particularly successful quarter-end review, after the workers have gone home and the floor is quiet, Paige finds Kieran in the observation office. Good meeting. You made it good. Jack's idea. I just formatted it. She leans against the desk. You staying late again? Thought I'd review the maintenance schedules. Kieran, it's Friday. Review them Monday. He looks at her. You suggesting I leave work unfinished? I'm suggesting you remember why we fought for work-life balance. She's smiling. Come on. Dinner. Real restaurant, not the diner. That feels dangerously like a date. Maybe it is. She extends her hand. You scared? Terrified. He takes her hand. Of complicating everything. It's already complicated. She pulls him to his feet. Question is whether it's worth it. Kieran looks at her. Strong, brilliant, uncompromising Paige Morrison who taught him everything important. It's worth it. She kisses him, quick and certain. Then stop overthinking and buy me dinner. They leave together, turning off lights, locking doors. Behind them, the factory sits dark and quiet, waiting for Monday's shift. It's not perfect. Charles still controls the board. The fight continues. But here, in this one factory, something shifted. Power shared. Dignity recognized. Two people from different worlds finding common ground. Not a fairy tale. Something better. A story about choosing each other, choosing to believe that different is possible, and proving it true.